Folks, it's August 29th, 2020, Saturday, and it is International Play Music on Your Porch Day. I'm going to do this first part on the porch in order to honor that, but because I live on 102nd, there's a lot of car traffic, so it's not quite so ideal. But it is the front porch, and so I am honoring the idea. I will do this first part with percussion instruments. And, I will show you the percussion instruments because it's far easier to do so with handheld rather than the rudimentary tripod situation that I have. It's can't really move it around like a real motion picture camera mount. So here we have 102nd. In a way, it is can be viewed as a demonstration of rhythm. And rhythm is something that we live in and are part of, whether we're playing an instrument or not. If we think about us and life forms, we breathe, which is a rhythmic endeavor. Our hearts beat, which is a rhythmic endeavor. And much of our motion, if we walk, how we move, and is often rhythmic. Cycles of the world that we live in are rhythmic. The earth revolves at a particular pace, moves around the sun at a particular pace. There's an interesting word for how all of those kinds of rhythms can coordinate, as it were, with each other. Syncopation. Not all rhythms syncopate, which is to say that they don't run through their cycles and then hit a common beat at a particular count. And rhythm and numbers and mathematics are related along that way, because you just heard me use the word count. So I think that on this semi-auspicious day, International Play Music on Your Porch Day, I'm not going to go on and on and on about rhythm because I'm not a musicologist, but I think it can be enriching and liberating to think about rhythm as something that applies to more than just percussion and drumming and music. It's a part of our life in a more broad sense. Because it's International Play Music from Your Porch Day, I have this little button that I have had for years and years, from the last year in high school when I took Russian classes. And it's druzie is the word, and it means friendship, or friend. Here's a little hand drum. And hold it like so. Drums are often surfaces in tension held across a frame of some kind. And you can hear the slight differences in tone as this particular drum is struck either close to where it's held, as opposed to in the center. So there's an example of a striking instrument, as it were. There are other kinds of percussion instruments. This is a particular kind of shaker of a sort. There are instruments that have tones. And instruments that may not strike you as being percussive in nature because they have scales of tones and resonate along those lines. But if we think about it, lots of instruments that produce what we consider to be tones and melodic aspects of music are also percussive. Piano, an acoustic one, has a keyboard, and you play it by pressing down on those keys. But those keys actuate a hammer that then strikes a strung string in a sound chamber, either a long one or L-shaped, roughly, as it were. So this, although it plays tones, is struck by something. So there are tones there, but it's being struck or plucked, and that action is a percussive aspect of those tones. And we think back to what I was going on and on about earlier with respect to rhythm. In the broader sense, we are moving in a known and predictable pattern, our planet through space, revolving around a star that, and as we're doing that, the planet that we're on rotates, and the world around us moves. And we move, and even things that move slowly, like plants, have in my opinion, if you examine them over a long period of time, they respond in a rhythmic way to their environment. The changing of the season influences the tree to leaf out, to bloom, to then drop. It moves and changes. The sunlight makes it move, and that in itself is moving. There's a syncopation there, if you think about it. Here's a fun little instrument. And we are not the only creatures that produce rhythmic sound, or music for that matter. Lots of other animals do. This little drum is a replica of a toad. Toads and frogs make music to help with procreation, and otherwise, who knows, express themselves in some way that might be a bit more sophisticated than we give them credit for. We all know that birds make a huge variety of sounds. Other animals do as well. Smaller cats purr, even some big ones like cougars, cheetahs. Dogs make sounds, all kinds of creatures around us. And it may be that if we listen closely, there's a bit more rhythm in their sounds than we might tend to easily otherwise think. There are drums that allow a person to change the tone by changing the tension of the drum head. This is a drumstick. But you don't need a drumstick in order to play drums, and you can use all kinds of things. Utensils, pens, your hands. If you were at all like me or like other people, when you were a child, you clapped your hands, you experimented with the sounds of objects if you struck them against other things, pencils and pens, while you were supposed to be learning. These are often referred to as, this particular type, I mean, where you can definitely stretch the drum surface, the head, as it were, as you're going along. You can actually do that with other drums too, even with plain old, as it were, ordinary drums that are part of a drum kit. You can move a passive surface, like your fingers, across it as you're striking it, and then change the tone and timbre of the drum as you're hitting it. So I'm just one person, and so I'm not going to be able to really demonstrate syncopation or more complex polyrhythms, they're called. But if you use your mind's ear, you can imagine the ability of this instrument to have a change in tone being played along with other instruments that don't have as much tonal range, but still can be influenced by striking them along the surface in a different way or moving them in different parts. You can come up with very pleasing to the ear and complex patterns. This is a bigger drum. of the djembe family. So there's a little bit of drumming on this International Play Music from Your Porch Day. I'll leave it up to you to make a decision about whether that amounts to music or not. Got one other drum that I'll play for this little portion of what I'll be sharing for International Play Music on Your Porch Day. This is a big box, or a medium-sized box, and it's called a cajon, which my limited understanding of Spanish means box. Now these can be sat on, and typically are. And I've done it before, sat on them, but my hips are not exactly crazy about sitting on. Oh, that was neat. Well, there's the risk of doing anything. There's a moment of entertainment. Let's do a little recovery from that. Try something else. Bear with me for a sec, and I'll try to fix the situation here. My hope was to be able to show you yeah, I'll be back.